talking a little bit about this is like a fan response to Rhett Shull's video about the 5 so-called bad habits he has. I love Rhett, huge fan, and we're going to get into that in a minute. Actually, no, I'll jam at the end, I think. We'll just do some jamming at the end. So let's talk about these so-called 5 bad habits. First of all, if you don't know who Rhett Shull is, I put a link to his YouTube channel below. I'm a huge fan of Rhett's. I follow his video channel pretty religiously. So this is not that kind of this is not that kind of response video where I'm going to contradict a bunch of stuff. Couple of things like a little bit of disagreement here and there, but I also kind of want to expand on a couple things he said. So first of all, he was talking about his 5 bad habits, and these are pretty much, a lot of these are really universal. And the first one he talks about is noodling. We all noodle, kind of playing nothing, you know, just, or every time you pick up the guitar, maybe not really playing in time, not really doing anything. I had a college professor that this guy was a real ball buster, and his line was, you didn't play your instrument unless you were playing A with the metronome or B with the drummer. And that was that. There was no middle ground, man. There was no noodling with him. And so one of the things you can do to make your noodling more, how do I want to say, actually do something with it, is to play with time. So put the metronome on or put a drum groove on and nail something down with it. Okay? The other thing that I like to do with noodling is usually noodling for me leads to kind of warming up, which leads to me then, like, depending on what I'm going to do with the guitar, to either work on something I'm writing or a song I'm learning or something like that, or to create or to work out some idea that I want to get better at on the guitar. One of the things that I've been struggling with is this going back and forth from string to string. I'm not talking about I'm talking more about that stuff where you go. So I'm kind of sloppy at that. So I made up a little exercise, and so instead of just noodling, one of the things you can do is make up little exercises or etudes. I prefer etudes over exercises. I'll do a video on the difference between an etude and exercise. Is to make up a little etude that helps you work through that hurdle. So now you're not less noodling, you're actually doing something. So that's a way around it. The other thing that I do with, instead of just noodling, would be to actually try to explore the neck. So if you're like me and you're, you know, a guitar nut, you always find new stuff. You should always, at least you should be looking for new stuff. So I'm always looking for, well, how could I connect this arpeggio with that scale, and what key are these 4 chords in, and you know, what arpeggios does that come out to, or that sort of thing. So I will sit there and I'll go, you know, or you know, how can I incorporate a B flat note against an A7 chord? So I'll sit there and say, well, that's a sharp 9 idea. So that leads me into stuff like that. So there's ways to get out of the noodling thing by actually turning your noodling into practicing. But I think you're going to play something when you pick up the guitar. You're just going to automatically, you know, I mean, almost everybody does it. Play some riff or song that you know. One of my go-tos is this. You screwed it up. I learned that many, many years ago, and it's just one of those things I like to play. I like the sound of it. So sometimes, you know, I'll whip that out. I don't think you should never play anything like that, but always be saying, well, wait a minute, trying to try, psychologically, mentally kind of rein that in and say, well, let's actually do something here and not just sit and noodle forever. So let's move on. Reverb. I am not a big reverb thing. Now, Rhett says in his video that he really relies on reverb. I played a lot of Fender combo amps and the like, PV combo amps and stuff, as a young guitar player, and they all, 90% of them had reverb. And I would turn the reverb on, just enough to kind of create a little bit of warmth, or not a little warmth, but just a little bit of ambience. I never really thought about it one way or another. It's like, I would just kind of turn it on, just to kind of make it sound nice. But that was it. And to me, guitar that was really drenched in reverb was surf guitar. That was the, so that goes to show you about my age. And so I never really experienced or really thought about ambient guitar until I started to hear players like Andy Summers and Edge and people like that. What Rhett is a really good at the ambient thing. And so I get it. You don't want to be relying on reverb like you can't play, etc. It's like guys who can only play with like heavy distortion. They can't ever use a cleaner sound. If that's your issue, where you're constantly relying on some effect, you might want to rethink it. But Rhett, I hope you don't give up your ambient guitar stuff, because you do amazing work with that. That always floors me, because I don't play like that at all. It's the complete opposite of what I'm even thinking about. So when I hear Rhett doing that type of stuff, I'm always it really tickles my ear, and I really, really love it. So I hope that he still continues to do that stuff. It'll be interesting to hear how he plays without that and what he kind of comes up with. But yeah, that can be part of your style too. It's a legitimate thing. There are guys who play in that ambient style a lot. That's like I don't want to say shtick. Shtick isn't a nice word. But that's what they do. So it can be cool. Again, though, don't want to rely on it. It's the same way with me, relying on... I like compression because I like how it shapes my overdrive tone. So I get that real kind of smooth overdrive tone. I like it on a clean sound because I like the way I can kind of dig in and stuff like that. But I get it. One way to work to work through this idea, if you're constantly relying on a certain sound, is to start playing. I know I'm going to go really old school on you guys here, but an acoustic guitar. There, I said it. Work out some of your stuff, even your noodling riffs, on acoustic. So that really forces you to really think, well, what am I doing with my hands to make the tone? So consider doing that, because then you can't get anything. It's just you and the guitar and your hands and trying to come up with something or trying to make it sound really awesome. So yeah, good point, Rhett, but just please don't lose the ambient thing. You do it great. And for those of you out there who feel like you might be relying on an effect or a certain kind of sound, whip out that acoustic and spend some time with that. What else do we have on the list here? I don't want to talk about the right hand just yet. I'm going to save that for last. Oh, relying on muscle memory versus really playing by ear. So, we all have our licks, right? And this is something that I struggle with too, especially in a pressure situation. And Rhett talked about this in his video. You're in a kind of a high pressure situation, so the easiest thing to do is to play the pre-memorized licks, riffs, etc. that you've been doing. One of the ways to get out of that is to spend a lot of time improvising. Now, he says that that's one of the things he's going to work on. It's something I do all the time. I really enjoy improvising. Like I said, one of the things I do when I get past the noodling is to explore the neck. There's a, wait a minute, here's an E major 7 arpeggio, which kind of connects to a B major chord. So I might take that and practice that. You get the idea? So exploring the neck will help get you out of that. Putting on a track and trying your damnedest not to repeat yourself. There are some great ones out there. Elevated Jam Tracks has a series of very long, like minimum of 10-minute jam tracks. They kick your ass. Because you have to, because you'll start to notice you're repeating yourself. So the more you work with stuff like that, the less you'll repeat yourself and the more free you'll be with like coming up with ideas and playing things. I'm going to give you, though, a really interesting tip that some of you aren't going to like because it's really hard to do. Here's what I do. Because I'm a singer and I find it easier to sing, my vocal coach like pestered me for years to do this. I started tuning my guitars down a half step. So how does that affect when you go to improvise and getting loose on the neck? When you play to a jam track that's in E, that I have to play in the key of F. Mind blown, right? So you've got to think differently and you can't rely on your old E licks. Can't really rely on that stuff because it doesn't work. So this will force you out of that comfort zone. So tune the guitar, retune the guitar, tune the guitar down a half step, then play to all the tracks, and you're going to find that it is a real ass kicker, and you will be forced to come up with more creative and different types of things. That just doing that alone has really helped me explore the neck and find stuff that I never would have found before. So I highly recommend just retuning. And this one I consider sort of part B of the last one, and that is playing all the same stuff. And the real easy solution to that is learn some new stuff. And this is an area that I'm really bad at because I was never really big into learning other people's songs. I always wanted to play my own thing, number one. Number two, I'm a songwriter, so I'm always interested in coming up with my own riffs and my own things like that. However, learning other people's riffs, licks, some solos, things like that will help expand the vocabulary. So I'm preaching to myself here. It's something that I should spend a little more time doing. Spend a little time, pick. Maybe you want to learn. It depends on your schedule. Like learn a song a week, cover song a week, or if you don't, you don't want to learn the whole. I don't think you have to learn whole songs. Like you could just say, there's a really tricky riff or a really tricky lick that he does in this solo, and the second time around on the outro, and I want to learn that and sit down and learn that today, and then tomorrow, what other cool thing have you always wanted to learn? And just little snippets. 8-bar, 16-bar things that, maybe 4-bar things, maybe 2-bar things. And the same way with songs. I'm always big into, I love songs. So I'm a little better with learning the riffs than I am with the solos. And I will tell you one other trick to getting yourself out of playing the same things, getting yourself out of muscle memory, and getting yourself out of noodling. That is to learn the melody of the song. Guitar players are really big onto learning the licks and learning the riffs and all the tricks and the whammy bar and the wah pedal and all that jazz. But the melody is really the core of the song. So take some time and learn some melodies. This will take your playing. This will completely elevate your playing. When I started learning melodies, my playing became insanely more melodic. All right, now the last one that I want to talk about is he talks about his right hand picking technique, and this is where I'm going to slightly disagree with Rhett. What he says, please go watch his video. He's great, and please subscribe to his channel. But what he says is he talks about anchoring the hand. Now he uses the word anchor. I'm going to use a little different word. He talks about anchoring the hand on the bridge. Okay. And that is a bad habit, and he wants to change that, and he wants to get into a more free-floating kind of thing with the right hand. I would disagree a little bit. The guy who is like the picking god, arguably, on YouTube is Troy Grady. If you don't know who Troy Grady is, just when you're done watching this video, put Troy Grady into the search on YouTube and watch his picking videos. He has developed this crazy camera that sits on the neck, and you can see exactly what he's doing with the picking. Troy, like me, like many other guitar players out there, while we aren't anchored to one part of the guitar or another with the right hand, we are resting the hand. And you will. I think it immediately improves your picking to rest the hand. Now, there are different ways of doing it, and I actually use multiple techniques as I am playing. I don't do it just in one way. I will start with the most obvious, which is this top part here. Well, how can I do this so we can see? This top part here of the bridge. Okay, so I'll do that. Right? Okay. But what I'll also do is, as my hand moves from the 6th string to the 1st, I'll have the fingers on the strings I'm not playing on. Got to remember to look at the camera, not the monitor. And as I get down to these strings, I'll have maybe my pinky on the pickup or the pick guard. Little iffy there when I get up here. I need a little more practice there. But what I'll do here, though, as you see, my fingers. Okay? So I think that resting the hand, if you totally free float the hand, you're going to be... Also, guys, remember, I'm holding the guitar up sideways. This is not how I usually do it. So. Pretty consistent, right? This allows you to move anywhere. So if you want to, see, I'm picking real close to the neck. I don't particularly like that sound, so I don't pick there. And I also find this better for palm muting, which I find myself kind of going in and out of palm muting as I play, just as I feel it. Also, I'm playing with distortion. When you're playing with distortion, muting has to happen. Even if you're not actually palm muting, you're kind of touching the guitar and keeping things in control. I'm not using a lot of overdrive here. But I can finger pick, I can Travis pick. You'll notice a lot of classical guitar players, while classical guitar is designed to, you want to have the hand kind of in front, like that, they are still some resting. Like the classical guitar teacher that I worked with, he would, very often you'd see his hand either sitting on the body of the thumb, either sitting on the body of the guitar or resting on one of the lower strings, usually the 6th string. In any case, there'd be something in contact with the strings, almost at all time. Very little just floating in space. I would be interested to see what Rhett comes up with this, getting away from resting the hand. Would be interesting to see. So I'm just, I'm not here to contradict. I'm just here to give you guys a little perspective. There's a medium between the hand free floating and the hand anchored. I also went back, and this guitar is relatively new, but I also went back and looked at all my old guitars, looked at the bridges to see if I have the finish wore off on any of the bridges or anything, and I don't really have a lot of that. I don't really have it like he really. So he might be really digging in and really holding it there at all times. I could see why you might want to modify it if that's true. So that's my sort of response to that. Again, check out Rhett's channel. The link is below. He's an amazing guitar player. He's got a great tone. I'm gonna just do a little bit of jamming here on the way out. So please. I always forget. I'm kind of newish to YouTube. I have some old videos, and I got away from YouTube, and I came back. But so hit the like, and if you dig it, hit subscribe. That would be so nice. We do all kind of cool stuff here. I have a podcast. We do it live. We do a video version of it. It's real wacky and a lot of fun. It's all about rock music. So if you love this sort of thing. And then I have a community as well, LouLombardiRocks.com. Let's do it. Hey guys, have a great one. Talk to you soon.